The night was silent except for the faint hum of traffic outside, yet inside the hoarder's house, fear lived in every corner. The cat crouched low beneath a broken chair, its eyes wide, glowing with terror. Dust clung to its matted fur, and the air reeked of rot. Emily said, "This place feels alive with shadows, but we must search carefully." She stepped slowly, her flashlight cutting through piles of garbage, boxes, and old newspapers. Each step crunched on broken glass, making the cat flinch. The animal's ribs showed through its thin coat, a scar across its back like a cruel reminder. The hoarder muttered incoherently in the next room, his voice sharp, dismissive. "They're just animals, not worth the trouble." The cat trembled, unsure if rescue meant more danger. Emily whispered, "Don't be afraid, little one, I will not leave you here." Her words were soft but firm, carrying a weight of promise. The hoarder slammed a door, shaking the walls, while dust rained down from the ceiling. The cat's ears pinned back as its body tensed, heart racing in rhythm with fear. Emily raised her hand slowly, trying not to spook it, her eyes pleading with patience. The house groaned, a prison of decay, while time slowed in that fragile, uncertain moment. The cat dared to lift its head, torn between hope and mistrust, sensing a fate about to change. The house smelled of mildew and despair, every object covered in grime. Emily whispered, "So much waste, but somewhere in this mess is a soul worth saving." She edged closer to the chair, her steps light as breath. The cat stayed low, tail tucked, waiting for danger. The hoarder cursed from behind a wall, throwing another object to the floor. The sound echoed like thunder. Emily's heart pounded, her chest tight with urgency. She knew the cat's trust was fragile, easily shattered. The animal blinked, torn between instinct to flee and longing for warmth. Emily whispered again, "I see you, and I will not harm you." Her words carried into the silence like a fragile bridge. The cat shifted slightly, its paw pressing against a pile of newspaper, making a faint rustle. It froze, ears flat, golden eyes locked on Emily. She held her breath, knowing one wrong move could send it deeper into hiding. Emily steadied her breathing, reminding herself of the countless rescues before. Yet this one felt heavier, as if the entire room resisted. The cat quivered, its scarred back arching as it hissed faintly. Emily whispered, "You've suffered too long, but tonight it ends." The hoarder banged another door, the sound shaking loose, a cascade of dust. The cat flinched but did not run. Emily angled the flashlight gently, dimming the direct glare, hoping to ease its fear. The room groaned as if alive, walls closing in with decay. The cat's eyes met Emily's, glowing like tiny lanterns of desperation. Emily felt her throat tighten as she realized how close despair was to triumph. Emily whispered softly, "I know you want to run, but I promise safety." The cat shifted, ears twitching, torn between trust and survival. The hoarder grumbled in background, muttering, "Worthless creatures, wasting my space." Emily's jaw tightened, but she kept calm. Her hand hovered close to the ground, fingers extended. The cat crept forward an inch, whiskers twitching, then froze. The silence was heavy, broken only by Emily's calm breaths. She whispered, "Every scar tells your story, but I will help you heal." The cat blinked slowly, a tiny gesture of surrender. Emily's chest filled with cautious hope. The tension built like a storm. Emily whispered again, "One step closer, and you will be safe." The cat's paw slid forward, claws scraping faintly against floor. Its body trembled, but it inched toward her. The hoarder shouted angrily from another room, banging against a wall, yet the cat focused only on Emily's hand. The flashlight beam illuminated the fragile bridge of trust. Emily's lips curved into the faintest smile, her voice a fragile anchor, "You're not alone anymore." The cat exhaled softly, lowering its body as if surrendering to destiny. Dust settled like ash in the quiet room, marking the beginning of change. The night had passed, and morning light filtered through cracked blinds, turning the dusty air golden. Emily said, "This place is broken, but hope waits inside these walls." The cat crouched in silence, its belly empty, eyes faintly glowing with hunger. Emily studied him, feeling a heavy sorrow for every rib that showed. The hoarder muttered from another room, his voice sharp. I feed them when I want, they survive. The cruelty sat heavy in the air like poison. Emily steadied herself, whispering, You deserve more than scraps, little fighter. The cat's ears twitched, his body trembling yet curious. The house groaned under weight of clutter, every surface buried under objects. Emily reached gently into her bag, pulling a small piece of food, her hand trembling with urgency. The cat leaned forward, nose twitching, torn between fear and hunger. Emily whispered again, I will not trick you. This is yours. The cat crept one step closer, and for the first time, its golden eyes showed a flicker of fragile trust. Emily whispered, You have survived cruelty, yet here you are, still strong. The cat sniffed, inching closer, his whiskers trembling. His stomach growled softly, echoing the silence. The hoarder muttered, No one else wants them. I keep them because no one cares. Emily's heart burned, anger flashing in her chest, but she stayed calm. She whispered, Every soul deserves care, even those broken by neglect. The cat crept closer, paw trembling as it reached toward the food. Emily's hand stayed steady, her eyes soft and patient. She thought of all the rescues before, but this one felt like fate. The cat hesitated, ears pinned back, then licked the morsel cautiously. Emily smiled faintly, whispering, That's it, brave one, taste what freedom means. The room remained tense, but a thread of hope tied rescuer and animal together. The cat tasted the food, eyes wide, as if realizing kindness for the first time. Emily whispered, See? No harm, only care. The hoarder shuffled, his footsteps heavy on creaking floorboards, muttering, They always run, never worth keeping. The cat flinched, but Emily whispered firmly, Ignore him, trust me instead. Her voice carried strength, cutting through despair. The cat blinked, slowly, pressing his nose against her hand before retreating an inch. Emily smiled softly, whispering, That blink is your courage, and I see it. Dust danced in sunlight, drifting across piles of forgotten objects. The house seemed to sigh, its darkness lifting for a moment. The hoarder slammed a drawer, but the cat's focus returned to Emily. His golden eyes shone faintly with fragile trust, a fragile bridge forming between despair and salvation. Emily whispered gently, You have carried scars, but they don't define you. The cat lowered himself onto his belly, eyes never leaving hers. The hoarder muttered angrily from another room, Don't waste your time. It's worthless. Emily's jaw clenched, but her voice stayed tender. You are not worthless, you are loved. The cat's tail twitched as he edged an inch closer. Emily remembered other rescues, but none had looked at her with such raw despair and longing. Her heart tightened, as if this soul had been waiting just for her. The cluttered house was a prison, but here in the beam of light, trust was being born. The cat dared another lick of food, trembling but brave. Emily whispered, Step by step, little one, I'll guide you out. The silence grew heavy, but now it was filled with possibility. Emily whispered, You are brave, even when the world was cruel. The cat crept forward, paws trembling, his ribs brushing against piles of old newspaper. He sniffed Emily's hand again, then pressed his head gently against her fingers. Emily's breath caught, tears filling her eyes. She whispered, You've chosen trust, and I will honor it. The hoarder muttered louder, Take him if you want, just trash to me. Emily's chest burned with anger, but she stayed calm for the cat. She whispered, You're no trash, you're treasure. The cat rubbed his cheek against her hand, a fragile sign of surrender. Emily smiled through tears, whispering, This is the beginning, little fighter, not the end. The room, once suffocating, now glowed with fragile hope. Dust sparkled in sunlight, marking a quiet miracle of trust finally being born. The fragile trust began to take shape, yet the house's darkness fought against it. Emily whispered, You deserve freedom, but we must move quickly. The cat stepped forward but froze when the hoarder shouted, Stay away, they're mine." His words echoed through the rotting walls, rattling piles of glass jars and broken furniture. Emily steadied herself, whispering, "He doesn't own you. You belong to yourself." The cat shivered, tail low, eyes darting between Emily and the shadows. A crash came from the kitchen as the hoarder threw a bottle, glass shattering like thunder. Emily's heart leapt, but her hand stayed steady, her body shielding the animal. The cat trembled, his scar glowing under the faint light. Emily whispered, "Your pain will not last forever." The hoarder muttered curses, his footsteps stomping closer. The house creaked, the smell of mold and decay pressing heavy on the air. Emily breathed deeply, knowing this moment was not just about rescue but survival against a looming force of cruelty. The cat cowered, ears pinned back, every muscle tight. Emily whispered, "I will not let him hurt you." Her voice was steady, though fear knotted her chest. The hoarder snarled, "You think you can take them? They'll starve without me." His eyes burned with control, his body trembling with rage. Emily met his gaze, jaw tight, whispering, "Starving isn't living, you've imprisoned them." The cat whimpered softly, the sound slicing Emily's heart. She crouched lower, hand steady, whispering, "Trust me. I will fight for you." The hoarder stepped forward, kicking aside boxes, glass crunching under his shoes. The house shook with his anger, shadows dancing on the walls. The cat hissed faintly, eyes wide, torn between escape and surrender. Emily's eyes locked on his golden gaze, whispering firmly, "This is your moment. Choose hope, not fear." Emily whispered, "The world outside is brighter than these walls." Her words cut through the heavy silence, reaching trembling ears. The cat crept forward, inch by inch, whiskers twitching. The hoarder growled, "They're nothing without me," his voice breaking like fractured glass. Emily's chest tightened, whispering, "He is wrong, you are everything." The cat blinked slowly, a spark of recognition in its golden eyes. The hoarder slammed a chair against the wall, debris falling. Emily didn't flinch, her focus entirely on the animal. "Take this step, and you will never return here," she whispered. The cat trembled but pressed his paw against Emily's boot, a tiny gesture of trust. Emily's breath caught as tears burned her eyes. She whispered, "That's it, brave one, you've chosen life." The hoarder cursed, stomping back in frustration, his rage unable to shatter the fragile bond now forming in the shadows. The hoarder shouted louder, "You don't belong here. Leave my house." His words rattled the walls, but Emily stood firm, her voice low and unshaken. "I am leaving, and he comes with me." The cat pressed closer, ears twitching nervously. Emily whispered, "No more cages, no more hunger." Her eyes softened, promising safety. The hoarder stomped forward, but his steps slowed as if the weight of his own bitterness dragged him. The cat's tail flicked, his body still trembling but leaning closer to Emily. Dust clouded the air as the old ceiling groaned. Emily whispered, "One final step, and you're free." The cat shifted forward, pressing his side against her leg. Emily exhaled deeply, whispering, "You've chosen trust over fear." The hoarder muttered curses, yet his voice cracked, powerless against the fragile miracle unfolding before him. The room seemed to hold its breath. Emily whispered, "You are not his prisoner anymore." The cat leaned closer, pressing his frail body fully against her leg. Emily's chest swelled with resolve, whispering, "You are mine to protect now." The hoarder shouted, "Take him and leave. I don't care." His voice cracked with defeat, his figure shrinking in shadow. Emily bent carefully, her hand slipping beneath the trembling body. The cat resisted for a heartbeat, then relaxed into her arms. Emily whispered, "I have you now, and I will never let go." Tears blurred her vision, but her grip was strong. The hoarder turned away, muttering curses, yet his rage no longer mattered. Emily cradled the thin body close, whispering, "You're safe now, this is the beginning of your new life." The cat's golden eyes fluttered shut, his first moment of peace in years. The front door creaked open, spilling daylight into the suffocating house. Emily whispered, "We're leaving this darkness behind." She stepped carefully, the cat trembling in her arms. The hoarder barked, "You think taking him changes anything? He'll never trust you." Emily's grip tightened as she whispered, "He already has." Outside, a rescuer named Daniel waited, his van ready. He called softly, "Emily, bring him here, he's safe now." The cat's golden eyes blinked slowly, his thin body quivering with fear at the brightness of the world beyond. Emily whispered, "This light is yours now, not his shadow." The hoarder muttered bitterly, but his voice carried no strength. Dust floated in the sunlight, like tiny sparks of freedom scattering across the threshold. For the first time, the cat lifted his head high, gazing at the open sky beyond the doorway, as if he knew the prison was behind him. Daniel stepped forward, his eyes soft as he said, "He looks weaker than we feared, but he's alive." Emily nodded, whispering, "Alive, and ready for a new story." The cat shivered against her, ears twitching at every sound. The hoarder shouted from inside, "He'll come crawling back. They always do." Emily ignored him, whispering, "No one returns to chains once they've tasted freedom." Daniel opened the van door gently, revealing blankets, food, and a small carrier lined with comfort. Emily whispered to the cat, "This is your safe place now." The cat's golden eyes scanned the light, body stiff, but his whiskers twitched with cautious curiosity. Emily held her breath as she stepped toward the van, each step a promise carved in stone. The cat trembled as Emily stepped closer to the van, his eyes darting nervously. Emily whispered, "I know you fear cages, but this one is not a prison, it is a bridge to peace." Daniel said, "We'll give him time, no rush." The hoarder's voice echoed, "Don't waste your pity, he'll never change." Emily's voice cut firm but kind. "Every soul can heal when given love." The cat pressed tighter against her chest, burying his head into her jacket. Emily's heart swelled, whispering, "You are not alone anymore." The van seemed to glow under the sunlight, not as a trap, but as a vessel of hope. The hoarder's voice grew faint, swallowed by distance, powerless now. Emily's eyes filled with tears, as she realized this was the true beginning. Daniel whispered, "Emily, his eyes tell a story." Emily looked down, her breath catching as she saw a faint mark on the cat's warm collar. She whispered, "This isn't neglect alone, he once had a family." Daniel leaned closer, murmuring, "He was abandoned, maybe even loved once." Emily whispered firmly, "That love was stolen, but it will be restored." The hoarder shouted, "They left him years ago. I took what no one else wanted." Emily's chest burned, whispering, "You stole his hope, but we'll give it back." The cat blinked slowly, as if recognizing her words. His golden eyes reflected sunlight, glowing brighter than ever before. Emily whispered, "Your past is pain, but your future is peace." The van hummed softly, the engine ready to carry them far from cruelty. Emily whispered, "You carried scars, but you also carry strength." She placed the cat gently into the carrier, her hand stroking his back. The cat trembled, then curled slowly into the soft blanket. Daniel whispered, "He's safe now, Emily, he chose trust." The hoarder slammed the door inside the house, his voice gone, his shadow erased by sunlight. Emily wiped her tears, whispering, "The world will never cage you again." The van's interior glowed warm, filled with the promise of healing. The cat blinked slowly, his body finally relaxing, as though surrendering to hope. Emily whispered, "Your story doesn't end in shadows. It begins here with love and light." The air smelled clean, the wind carried freedom, and the house behind them shrank into silence. The van's engine roared to life, but the hoarder stormed out, fists clenched, his rage boiling over. He shouted, "You cannot just steal from me." Emily clutched the carrier tightly, whispering, "He was never yours." Daniel stepped between them, his stance firm, saying, "Enough, this ends now." The cat trembled in the carrier, golden eyes glowing in fear as the echoes of conflict shook the air. Emily whispered through the door, "Stay calm, little one, you're safe." The hoarder's voice cracked as he shouted, "They're mine, all mine." his anger twisted with desperation. Daniel's jaw tightened, saying, "You've starved and caged them, but today he is free." Emily's chest burned with courage as she whispered, "No chains will bind him again." The moment grew electric, the air sharp with tension, as if the world itself held its breath before the storm. The hoarder lunged forward shouting, "You'll regret this." Emily tightened her grip on the carrier, stepping back whispering, "Not this time." The cat pressed himself low in the carrier, his golden eyes darting nervously. Daniel raised his hand saying firmly, "One more step, and I call the authorities." The hoarder's rage twisted into a bitter laugh. He snarled, "Authorities? They don't care. No one ever cares." Emily's voice cracked but grew strong. "We care. I care. He matters." The air pulsed with raw defiance as Emily's words echoed. The cat blinked slowly, his fear colliding with hope. Daniel's eyes never left the hoarder, his stance ready, a human shield. The standoff thickened, a clash of cruelty and compassion, of ownership and freedom, with the fragile cat at its very center. Emily whispered through the carrier, "You are not alone. You are mine to protect." The cat shivered, curling tighter into the blanket, but lifted his eyes to hers. The hoarder spat, "He'll never be more than trash." Emily's voice rang with fire, "He is treasure." Daniel added, "Every life matters, even the ones you trampled." The hoarder threw his arms wide, shouting, "They're broken. They don't deserve saving." Emily held the carrier closer, whispering, "He is not broken, he is brave." The cat pressed his cheek into the blanket, eyes glowing faintly with resilience. Daniel's jaw tightened, his voice steady, "Your cruelty ends here." The silence thickened, every second, stretching into eternity. The cat blinked once more, not in fear but in fragile defiance, choosing the voice of love over the voice of rage. The hoarder's fury broke into desperation, his voice shaking, "Take him then, but he will never love you." Emily's chest ached, but her voice steadied, "Love is already here." The cat shifted, pressing closer to the bars, golden eyes glowing brighter. Daniel whispered, "Look, Emily, he's choosing you." Emily's tears welled, whispering, "Your chains are gone, your heart is free." The hoarder stumbled back, his rage collapsing into silence. Emily pressed her forehead against the carrier, whispering, "I will never betray you." The cat blinked slowly, a fragile vow returned. Daniel's hand rested on Emily's shoulder, his voice calm, "Let's go before his poison reaches us again." Emily nodded, whispering to the cat, "This moment is ours." The van's door creaked open, the threshold between despair and salvation, ready to be crossed. Emily whispered, "We are leaving shadows forever." She placed the carrier inside the van, securing it with care. The cat trembled, but his body no longer curled in fear. Instead, he stretched slightly, golden eyes half closed, in fragile peace. Daniel shut the van door, his voice steady. "It's over, Emily. He's safe now." The hoarder stood frozen near the house, his figure shrinking, powerless. Emily wiped tears from her cheeks, whispering, "Your fight is finished." But his life has only begun. The van engine rumbled, a sound not of escape but of triumph. The cat blinked slowly, pressing into the blanket, trusting for the first time in years. Emily placed her hand on the carrier, whispering, "You are free, and you are loved." The world shifted, the storm passed, and the future opened like sunlight breaking clouds. The van rumbled down quiet streets, leaving the decayed house behind. Emily sat close to the carrier, her hand resting gently on its top. She whispered, "You are safe now, little one." The cat stirred, golden eyes peering through the bars, trembling but calmer than before. Daniel glanced back from the driver's seat, saying, "We'll get him checked right away." The air smelled fresher now, no longer heavy with rot, but with the scent of freedom. Emily whispered, "The world outside has waited for you." The cat shifted, pressing his face lightly against the blanket inside. Emily's eyes softened, whispering, "You will never know hunger again." The van hit a bump, but the carrier stayed steady, her hand anchoring it. The city lights glowed faintly in the distance, a promise of a new chapter. The van pulled into a small clinic, its windows glowing warmly against the night. Daniel said, "We're here, Emily. Let's get him inside." Emily lifted the carrier carefully, whispering, "One step closer to healing." The cat trembled but no longer hissed, instead curling into the blanket for comfort. A veterinarian named Dr. Sarah greeted them at the door, her eyes kind as she said, "We'll take good care of him." Emily nodded, whispering, "He has survived the worst, now he deserves the best." The cat peeked out, whiskers twitching, his golden eyes catching the glow of the clinic light. Emily's chest swelled with hope, whispering, "This is your sanctuary." The night outside was dark, but inside, light and safety filled the air. Inside the exam room, the cat stepped hesitantly out of the carrier onto a clean table. Emily whispered, "You are free now, no more cages." Dr. Sarah examined him gently, her voice soft. "He's underweight, but he has a strong heart." Daniel nodded, saying, "He's a fighter." The cat flinched at first, but Emily's hand stroked his back slowly. She whispered, "No one will ever hurt you again." His golden eyes blinked, ears twitching but not retreating. Dr. Sarah added with care, "He'll heal. Scars remain, but they don't define him." Emily whispered firmly, "They are proof of his survival." The cat settled, curling into the blanket laid on the table, finally still. Dr. Sarah prepared a small dish of food, placing it gently in front of him. The cat sniffed, then bent forward, eating slowly with tentative trust. Emily's eyes glistened, whispering, "You've chosen life again." Daniel smiled faintly, saying, "This is his first real meal of freedom." The cat chewed carefully, each bite a small victory against years of neglect. Dr. Sarah said softly, "Food, warmth, and time will rebuild him." Emily whispered, "And love will restore him." The cat paused, then pressed his head against her hand before continuing to eat. For the first time, the room was filled not with fear, but with fragile peace. The silence carried hope, echoing louder than any cruelty ever had. The clinic grew quiet, the cat now curled in a blanket, belly full. Emily whispered, "Rest now, your fight is over." His golden eyes blinked once before closing, his breath slow and steady. Daniel said softly, "He trusts you, Emily. That's the hardest battle won." Dr. Sarah added, "Scars remain, but love will heal him." Emily smiled faintly, whispering, "He has a family now, and I will never let him go." The cat exhaled deeply, his body no longer tense but soft in surrender. The night pressed gently against the clinic windows, but inside was warmth and safety. Emily whispered once more, "You are home in my heart, always." The cat dreamed quietly, safe for the first time in years. Weeks later, the small house where Emily lived glowed warmly in the evening light. Emily whispered, "This is home, little one." The cat padded softly across the wooden floor, his ribs no longer sharp, his coat healthier though scars remained. Daniel visited often, smiling as he said, "He looks stronger every day." Emily's heart swelled as she whispered, "Strength born from survival." The cat leapt lightly onto a windowsill, golden eyes gazing at the sunset. The sky was painted with hues of fire and peace, a reflection of his journey. Emily whispered, "You were once trapped in shadows, but now you bask in light." The room hummed with warmth, filled not with silence of fear, but with soft breaths of comfort. Emily set a small bowl of food near the cat's favorite corner. She whispered, "You'll never know hunger again." The cat ate slowly, his golden eyes glancing at her with trust. Daniel said gently, "He sees you as his anchor now." Emily nodded, whispering, "And I will always be his." The room was quiet, except for the soft crunch of food and the steady rhythm of love. The cat finished eating, then rubbed against Emily's leg, his scar faint in the warm light. She bent low, stroking his head, whispering, "Your scars make you beautiful." His purr filled the room, deep and steady, echoing resilience and belonging. The sound was not just relief, but a declaration of survival. Later, Emily curled on the couch with a book, the cat climbing onto her lap. She whispered, "You choose me every day, and I choose you." His golden eyes blinked slowly, body stretching comfortably across her legs. Daniel chuckled softly. "He's claimed his throne." Emily smiled faintly, whispering, "He has found his kingdom, and it is love." The room glowed with golden lamplight, peaceful and still. The cat purred, a sound so steady it seemed to vibrate through the walls, as if rewriting their story together. Outside, the night carried silence, but inside was the heartbeat of trust. Emily whispered, "You are safe, and you are home." His eyes closed, his breath softening into sleep. The days passed, and scars healed into memories. Emily whispered one evening, "You carry your past, but it no longer defines you." The cat rested on the rug, golden eyes reflecting the glow of a nearby fire. Daniel sat beside Emily, murmuring, "He is more than survival, he is strength." Emily reached out, stroking the cat's back gently, whispering, "You are love, not loss." His purr filled the air, steady and deep. The fire crackled softly, casting shadows that danced across the walls. The room was no longer a cage of fear, but a sanctuary of warmth. Emily whispered once more, "Your story is not pain anymore. It is peace." The cat's eyes closed slowly, trusting the world at last. On a quiet morning, sunlight spilled through the window as the cat curled on Emily's bed. She whispered, "This is your forever home." His golden eyes met hers once before closing again in contentment. Daniel said softly, "He has found peace." Emily smiled through tears, whispering, "And so have I." The room was filled with quiet triumph, not loud or dramatic, but eternal. The cat purred, his body rising and falling in steady rhythm, no longer trembling, no longer afraid. Emily whispered once more, "You are loved, always." The light bathed them both, golden and soft, as the world outside continued on. Inside, love and survival had found their perfect ending.